2000 Ford Taurus V6 3.0, and it's got overheating issues where it's coming out of the reservoir. And I thought that it might have been the water pump because when you drive it leaks out, and I thought that it might have been the radiator or the lower T hose, but I did a compression test on it. Now with these Ford Tauruses, whenever you don't see white smoke coming out the exhaust pipes, but you have the signs of a blown head gasket, you know, the overheating, no matter what you do to it, you can't get the pressure off of it, it's probably a blown head gasket. And these Ford Tauruses are good for it. But when you do the compression test, you're going to force air the opposite direction into the block, as opposed to being all the compression on the engine being pushed into the radiator, which has caused the bubbles and all that stuff. So I've already done the test, and there was a little bit of white smoke coming out, and it was obvious to me. But I just heated up the engine to where it overflowed, and I'll let it cool back down. I'm going to do the compression test again on hot and see how much smoke comes out the exhaust pipe. I'm going to put 20 pounds of pressure. It holds 16 psi, and when you have that problem with it overflowing out the top of the reservoir cap for the radiator, it says right there 16 psi. So that means that the engine is giving it more compression, which the engine has what, like 120, 160 psi. I can get this cap on here. Now I just bought this kit from Harbor Freights for $69.99, and it comes with every vehicle for the radiator cap, all the models and everything. It's got a diagram that tells you which one to hook up, which is good for this type of shit because you're scratching your head wondering what the hell's going on. So I'm gonna go all the way up. I like to go a little gradually slower when I get to higher PSI so that you're not blowing something else out of proportion there. Alright, so I'm at 20 PSI. And it's red line, and you see the red line, how it's going into it, because 16 is the max. I'm just going to let it sit here for a second and let it push some coolant through the block into the engine while I sweat in this heat. So the needle dropped a tiny bit, which definitely indicated that the air is escaping, going somewhere, and it's still kind of steadily dropping. So now I'm going to release the pressure. Take my cap off it as well. Put the original one back on there. Now I'm gonna crank up the car and see if some white smoke comes out, which is going to. We got the coolant system pressurized and tested, and there was no leaks anywhere, and I went above 20 psi, which, you know, is usually pushing it. And then I drove the engine around. It still had the bubbles. It has the overflow and the overheat, which means that somehow pressure is getting into the cooling system over the 16 psi and causing it to overflow. That's for sure. The only thing that could do that is the engine. So that's that tutorial. If you have a Ford Taurus or any type of car and you're like tripping out because it's still got the overflow, sometimes it'll overflow at early stage and it won't overheat, but eventually when it gives out, it gives out. That could just be an early stage sign. This is Adam, I'm in a Phantom Motor Repairs. Adam here with Land of Phantom Motor Repair. Alright, so this is right here, as you can see, hatchback 2000 Ford Taurus. Overhead valves, 3.0 V6. So this guy right here has had overheating issues. Originally the AC compressor locked up and the serpentine belt would not move, and it bogged the engine down. It overheated, they got stuck on the side of the road, etc., etc. So then they had like all these people come check it out, and everyone's like, oh, the engine's blown, blah 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 blah, everything but a locked up AC compressor. Now these Ford Tauruses, the AC compressor is locked up on me on numerous Ford Tauruses, so you know, if that ever happens to you, just check your AC compressor. If you take the serpentine belt off, and crank it up for a second, and if it turns over, got compression and all that, then you know that it was the AC compressor, and then turn it off because it'll overheat. But this one right here, I fixed the AC compressor, got one from Pull Apart, which was damn near brand new, got lucky, and hooked it up. Now the chick before had all water in the cooling system, and it was rusted to hell and back. I thought originally that it could be the, you know, thermostat or a water pump because it was leaking coolant. However, the coolant was leaking out of the cap. So I bought a new radiator cap. And it still would immediately, before it like even started to get to like 200 degrees, would overflow out the cap. Now the thing you got to think about is the cooling system holds 16 pounds of pressure, and the engine itself, when it goes through its stages, can go up to 700 psi. Now with these Ford Tauruses, the car is going to run good and there might not be smoke coming out the back. That's because the compression will push through the heads into the cooling system, as opposed to the cooling system going into the heads. And you know, Cadillacs like the one over there, it's got a terrible system when hooked up to the head, so you see the coolant system getting burned off to the engine. These Tauruses, you know, everyone I've watched on the blogs, and they say that they don't have any smoke coming out the back. And that's my point, is that eventually, if the heads get bad enough, they will seep through and burn off through the exhaust. So for this one, I've actually diagnosed it. I put my compression test tool on here, which I got from Harbor Freights for $69.99 on sale today. And I loaded up. I put the cap for this one, it's the yellow for the Ford Taurus, and I hooked it on, and I put 20 pounds of pressure on there, and there was nothing leaking out. So I put just a tad bit more on there, and there was nothing leaking out. Usually when that happens, you'll you know, it'll be coming out of the heater core, it'll come out of the radiator, or maybe one of the hoses. Usually on the Ford Taurus, the hoses bust first. The T-shaped hose bust a lot, but in this case it wasn't. So my only conclusion is that 700 pounds of pressure out of the engine is being pushed through the little tiny leak in the head gasket, and all that combustion and bubbles and air is going to be pushed out through the radiator cap, which will cause it to overflow. And so that's basically that on that. I'm going to show you the full-on tutorial on how to take apart the Ford Taurus engine and replace it with head gaskets. Now I want to put a note in there: when you're taking apart a vehicle, try to take apart the biggest pieces you can. For instance, we got this air intake. It's hooked all the way to the intake. You can take off the cables and the brackets and the intake and pull that whole assembly off as one unit. That way, when you go to put it back on, you know, you're not sitting here having to buy gaskets for this, and you want to eliminate your money. So take off the biggest sections you can at a time. On these, you will have to replace the intake gasket because it sits in the middle of both the heads, and the bolts actually go through the top above the valves into the intake. So intake's coming off, just buy another intake gasket. 2 head gaskets. If you're gonna go in and do it right. You can take these cables off right here. Right here. you're gonna be a good. Oh shit. Yeah, literally. I gotta take this little hose off here. I'm not that organized when I do this. Asking questions, you know, they like videos. So. Come on, baby. So, aircraft mechanic took apart his entire car. He brought a replacement engine block. Just mounted everything back together. But he had. Probably. You watching? Super sexy already. Okay, push pause. God damn, you long ass.
Why can't I take this out?
So, Stop here and go over a few things. We've taken out a lot already. Intake, the coolant tank. We've taken out the alternator. Now we're taking off the valve covers and miscellaneous shit. But now we have this power steering unit right here, which is connected to the head. And there's two spots where the whole unit is hooked up, so you have to take off the tension pulley wheel. If you can get lucky, you can get this bolt right here out, and I think there's another bolt up underneath this tension pulley over on this side somewhere. And then on the back side, you got the exhaust cover plate, and I think that's it. Then we're gonna have to take off the fuel line, which is super simple. So right here are the fuel injectors. We're gonna take off these bolts here, and then on the opposite side here and here. And these little fuel injector casing will just pop right up, and then each fuel injector can pull out one by one. Now, when changing the head gaskets on these, you have to take off the rocker arms, and because there's bolts, of course, right there, on both heads. Okay. And the only way to get to those is by taking these rocker arms off. So stay organized. Keep each rocker arm where it's supposed to be in order with each stem. And you can download the PDF book online for Ford Tauruses on the torque pounds per pressure on these bad boys. And basically, you don't want to use like an extension or anything like that. You want to try to get a long, deep socket with a wrench, with a ratchet, and with the torque ratchet, and torque it down to the pounds per pressure that it says. I think it's like 23 or something like that, but I want to double check. And then also on the back side, the only way the heads are coming out is if the exhaust bolts come off. You can literally take off these bolts here, and here on bottom and top. And when you pull the heads out, you won't even have to worry about disassembling like down there or anything like that. They should just slide right up out of there. The intake, it's got to come out first because there's stuff in there too. That's the only way that the angle of the jangle here, angle of the dangle, is sideways, goes in a V shape or V/U shape. And so make sure you get all this top stuff off. Now these wires right here, they're kind of a pain in the ass because it's the main wire harness and it wraps around everywhere. But you can manipulate around it, you know, once you unhook all this right here. And all these little clips keep breaking, so I'm going to have to zip tie every last one of these bad boys down. Fucking dry rotted. See how the wiggle room here? So when I take this valve cover off and I get to the point where I get the heads off, you're going to have to move these wires around just to manipulate everything out of there. And that way you don't have to do a bunch of work when you go put it back on. It's a little pain in the butt, but you can get it done. Okay, so after we get the alternator out, you gotta take the tension pulley off, you gotta take this pulley off the top. And then down here on this power steering, there is that bolt right there. And I'm sure after you get that bolt out, it should
be helping.
It should just, that whole unit should slide off here. And then you'll be able to get
we can't fix
these bolts. You really don't even need to take those out though. But when we get to there, we'll get to there. So I loosened that bolt up. It's got some wiggle room now, you see that? I unhooked the power steering line right there.
And I hope.
Because nothing else seems to be connected to any of that. Except for the lower power steering line right there. I'm just gonna make a mess because I got some extra power steering fluid. It's only $1 at Dollar Tree, so I'm not even worried about it. But if you want to save it, you can cut a bottle in half and kind of fit it up underneath there. And as soon as you pull off the little clamp there, then you can fill up that little cap. So you can see I got that bolt out, power steering line off at the top, and this thing just kind of slides back and forth on these two screws here, but you can't get it out because of the wall and the coolant and the AC system. So I'm gonna get some vice grips, clamp them on here and here, and back these bolts out, and the whole unit should come out. So as you can see, I got vice grips on here, and this thing right here was already just pretty much loose. See it? So do both of them like that. I'm gonna do the top first and then do the bottom, but I know there's gonna be some tension on the bottom, so make sure you hold this whole frame while you do it, and it should take the tension off.
Go!
That air relieving?
Mm-hmm. Out of the threads. Holy shit. I'll have to get down the engine, damn it.
Oh, look at that side.
Oops, I've already fixed that once. All that stuff's gotta be scraped off. All the old gasket, the old sealant. Get a razor blade, maybe a little bit of sandpaper. It's fine, super fine. You don't want to get sand inside the engine, but I recommend at this point just a razor blade. So this is a valve compression tool. You can rent it, buy it. I'll buy it later. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this ready for you real quick. Okay, so what you want to do here is basically put these at the bottom of the spring. And twist this, and it'll compress it down. And that spring usually always shoots off. So keep an eye on these guys. Alright, now we have a free valve stem to just flow through here as free as we want to be. Okay, now right here, this valve stem has a bunch of freaking gunk on here. I'm going to show you a little trick to get that off. We want it to be sliding smooth. Alright, so we're going to get my little tool here. Slide that in. Kind of just a little snug tight there. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here. Get some sandpaper. Wherever thou shalt sandpaper be. Okay, I got some sandpaper. Now this thing's gonna get hot, but that's okay. Oh no, my battery's dying. Well, my battery died, but you can see how it cleans it off real good. I want to do that on all the valve stems. Okay, so I got this one pretty good. You know, it's gonna go down to about right here, so it's pretty smooth. I want to do the valve stem, which is this little spot right. Hold on, right here, this little lip. That spot you can polish out all the way with some valve grinding compound. What I like to do is put a little bit on here on the tip around it all the way, slide it back through the other side, grab this, flip it over, and you want to just kind of like tighten it down and pull back flush and put some pressure on it so that when it grinds down, you'll see how much it's cleaning off. And then afterward, you got to make sure that you get all that fine grit up out of there so it doesn't go back into the engine anywhere. Oh shit. Well, came out a lot more than I wanted to. See how it like shines and sparkles? Yeah. Got a valve grind compound on the opposite side. What I'm gonna do is stick this in here like so and tighten it down on there. Back. Alright, so I'm gonna flip this back over here. It's about to rain on me. I'm gonna have to put all this up. Alright. So you can see the stuff is still on there. I'm gonna wipe it off wherever my rag's at. Now to me, I'm not happy with that. Because you can see how it's still got those little metal pieces. It's like it's been chipped away from it. I want all that gone. So I'm going to keep doing it until it's perfect. Alright, so what we want to do here, I've already got all the valves back in their place, cleaned with the valve grinding compound. There it is. And I made sure that I wiped all that residue from that out of the area where the heads are connected, which are on the bottom side. And now I got my sandpaper, and I'm just gonna go through here and get all of that crap that's on there off of there. And sometimes you can get some alcohol, and after you do it, get some alcohol and pour it on there a little bit and wipe it down just to get all that residue off. A lot of people will use a razor blade and kind of scrape the stuff off, but little fine sandpaper works just as well. So I'm gonna do this one all the way around, all that stuff, both sides, all the way around, all the way around, and then a little bit on those, and then of course, ouch, the old head gasket needs to come off of there. And then after you sand all those down, you gotta do both sides. And then don't forget, you have to sand down your intake as well. I also like to use this. I'll spray them in there and clean them out and make it look pretty in there. But these really aren't too bad. I mean, this is just gonna be a quick little flip. So The valve stems look kind of pretty. So I think that I'm going to leave these alone with cleaning. But a good mechanic would hop in there and make all that look shiny and pretty. So I cleaned this part off, and you can kind of see the damage that the water was doing to the block. That's why it's important to run with coolant, because that shit will start to rust and all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna sandpaper that down as good as I can and keep on trucking. So I cleaned this side and the valve cover side. You see how it's eating away. That shit is super ugly in there. Ew. So I did go in here and just kind of wipe down the big chunks of grease on the side. Right there. Just a little wipe down for me. Yes, sir. I ain't doing it all today. Oh, wiper downer. Kind of ugly in there. All that stuff will get blown out through the combustion. Hopefully. Okay, so now I gotta do this side. Okay, so I was using the sandpaper, and you know what? It was the original. The original way I was taught was to use sandpaper, but in this case, it's taking me too long, and I don't want to be here all night. So I upgraded, and instead of going the original lessons that I learned, I'm gonna be a rebel without a cause and go bristle on this motherfucker and knock it out. Okay, so this little bad mama jamma on my flashlight is not gonna work because my phone's about to die. Anyways, this little tool knocked it out, and I got it done in like 10 minutes. And then I went back behind it with fine sandpaper, 100 grit, and kind of just really flushed up the sides. Went around everywhere and gave it a nice little touch up. I got the thick stuff off with that, and the littler stuff off with this. And, it's not the prettiest job, but I'm going to get some alcohol and wipe it down with some alcohol and let that dry up. And this will be ready to go for an adventure.
You're already done. That's all you're going to do? What's that knock off?
Oh my.
Wow. Daddy? I'm here watering my plant all day. And I'm going to come out here. So look back and it was here.
Thank you.
How does Patrick work, Daddy?
Oh, wow. All right. And all I gotta do now is hook in this little thermostat here. Seal it. Clean it off. Gotta clean it up first. No.
Yes. That's why you gotta clean up the garage too. Huh?
Yeah, maybe, baby.
I'm a smart girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I tell you stuff, and maybe it will work. Seriously, maybe it will work. I totally don't know. It's like a rose. Well, that's because
Adam back here with Atlanta Phantom Moto Repair. So, cleaned off the heads and all that stuff. Got them prepared to put in back in the engine. But I still have to clean off these. All that red stuff needs to come off. Now this side was the front, the right side of the engine. So all the even cylinders, and the gasket was pretty good. Seemed like all the color was still on there and all the rings were still holding their section of the woods there, but the back side was just blown out everywhere through the middles. You can see on the gasket here. Get a good little shot. But like all around here, this stuff, it's just blown out. They're supposed to have their rings still there in each section, and they're not. They're just eating away through the gasket. Now this Ford Taurus, everybody talks bad about these Ford Tauruses. There's a couple things that are shitty on them. The AC compressor goes out all the time, locks up. I think I've had to change power steering probably like 5 or 6 times, and water pump maybe once. But this car with a blown head gasket ran better than any vehicle I've ever had. You won't even notice really the difference until it starts overheating. And they're just easy, affordable cars to work on. When you start getting to dual overhand cams, that's where it gets a little more difficult. But these overhead valves are really just good engines. I mean, I don't think that they're going to blow up or crack. I've never had a cracked one. So, you know, they say Ford is the first on the side of the road dead, but it's also the first to get fixed the fastest. So we're going to get this block right here cleaned up, and then I'm going to put the head gaskets on. I'm going to start with the back, put the head gaskets on, and torque them down first. Then I'm going to put my exhaust with the new seals over there and try to get at least a couple bolts in there to hold it in, and then put the rest through. That way when you work on the front side, it's easier because you got to wiggle. The exhaust moves on both sides here, so it's easier to get the back side in first and then manhandle the exhaust on the front side to whatever you got to do. You also have to come in here and get all this crap out, all that rust, both sides here. And this kit comes with new seals for all that. So pretty much got the heads sanded, cleaned, with all the gasket, and got the little intake spot right here clean on both sides. Okay, and got this rag in here because there's a couple things I want to point out. Got these heads back here. I'm still working on them. They're almost done. See the little gasket still in there. But right here, this is where the coolant flows through. When you take these heads off, there's going to be coolant still right here at this level. I like to take a rag and stick it down in there like this one. And that's going to soak up all the coolant into the rag, and it's going to lower the water level, the coolant level. That way, when you put the new heads on, you want it to be dry and all the debris gone. So try to get that coolant level as low as possible. And also, when I did take off these heads, down in the threads is slap full of coolant, and I want to get that out. So I'm going to get an air gun and spray all that coolant out of there. And when you put the threads back in, I'm going to show you later, but always put some oil on the head bolts, because especially if you're using old head bolts, original, you know, most places want to put new head bolts in, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to lube them up with some oil and torque them back in there. I got these new gaskets in, they're looking pretty, and somewhere on here it says up and up. Now I'm gonna go grab my heads, play with them. So this is my technique to getting the coolant out of the head bolts, because you can take a bolt and screw it down in there with all that coolant that poured in there. The only reason why I did it in that process instead of draining the coolant out the bottom was because I want to keep as much coolant as the system to save money. And you know, it will get down into those bolts. So you just twist up some of these quilted picker-upper, and it works out pretty good, man. It sucks it up. And I'm going to do the front and the back real quick and put the gaskets back on there. And first I'm going to wipe it all down, get all that coolant out, and then I'm going to put it on there and I'll show you how to torque it down. Alright, now I got all the coolant out of the bolts. You can't see in there. And I got the, I wasn't happy with my head job there. So I did another pass especially around the cylinder heads, because that's where most of your combustion will be. I'm talking like thousands of psi, 1,000 psi. So make sure that you get fresh metal down there. All the way around, fresh metal, fresh metal, fresh metal. Alright, let's get the gaskets. Thomas.
Almost done. Oh, wait.
Take with me, please. See, to line it up, you would put this one with this parallel, and then it's got the little hooks on the bottom. It should slide right on. Alright, so that right there is oil, and that right there are the head bolts. That right there are the head bolts. These group of massive screws I'm gonna reuse. Now they say everyone says that you have to buy new head bolts. Yeah, it's pretty much true. But you can reuse them. I use oil to lubricate the desired location that it wants to go. And when you put it in there, it'll go in smoother and will have less resistance on the bolt. And that, my friend, is how you reuse a head bolt. Alright, so I'm going to put all the good ones, all the good bolts on the back side with some lube. And then all the other ones I'm going to clean off and make sure there's no little things inside of them, and put those on the front. Alright, so I'm going to pick through here and pick out some of these good bolts. This one's still kind of pretty, got the brass color to it. I like it. Alright, so I got the back head bolts in, all lubed up. And I got my little sheet over here on the torque sequence. Get out my torque wrench. Here. It says 50 pounds. 37 pound per inch. Okay, so I got the gauge set to 37 pounds per inch, which is right there. And basically, you want to go until you hear this thing click. Go to the next one, and there's a torque sequence like it showed on there. Which numbers they are right here. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so get my camera to, got the bolts torqued down to specifications. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You do 37 pounds till you hear it click. You want it straight, you want to go steady, and as soon as you hear that little click, you're done. Now it says to loosen the bolts 1 full turn. I do it. I don't know why they want you to, but I do it anyways. And come back with 22 pounds. And then after 22 pounds, you just do a complete almost 90-degree turn. So that's like a quarter of a pie, quarter of a dollar turn. And then you do an additional quarter turn. All right. Heads are torqued down. Oh, 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 oh. All right. Now, I want to get these exhaust bolts in. Line that shit up. Put it on there. Because that is going to be a pain in the ass later if you don't do it now. So, I got the exhaust on. Start at the back. Now, when moving the exhaust, you're going to have to climb up in this engine and grab it with one hand. What I like to do before I do that is stick a bolt through one of the gasket holes. Middle. I started over here. And then lift up the engine, lift up the exhaust pipes and kind of turn the threads in there by hand a little bit, maybe as hard as your hands can do it. And then hurry up, grab another bolt, lift it up and kind of position it, stick it through there, tighten it down. And after that, you can go to this side and make sure you leave them like completely, not completely tight down, but leave like half an inch out, because you still have to wiggle it to put the front side on. So don't tighten the bolts down all the way. And then once you get the front side bolts in a good amount of thread turns, then you can go ahead and just tighten them all down. Now the only one is this first cylinder is all the way down here in the back. That one's kind of a pain in the butt. You got to stick your arm through this side up through here just to get to that bad boy right there. Alright, so next step after that is to put this intake on. So I'm going to get the gaskets ready and the black Permatex and start getting it all greasy and smudgy and stick it together. There also is a torque sequence for this one as well. I have the paper printed out and I'll show you shortly. These are Felpro gaskets, which do not require any sealant. But down here on these little blue rubber pieces right now, whichever way it wants to lay. So, I like to put some Indian head down in there. Indian head gasket sealer. It works good, you know. Whenever you take it off, you always see the Indian head or whatever that stuff is down there. So just glob it up, stick it in there, and when you're ready, put the whole thing together. Okay, so I got my Indian head. I'm just gonna dab that shit on there. Real respectable like. Alright. Nice little glob there. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Spill my Indian head down in the engine. Alright. That bad boy out of the way.
Trying to get your daughter to go in there and clean up her room. She wanted me to play with it. So we go clean up your room and I'll play with you then. She wasn't happy.
She loved to play, don't want to ever clean.
With like, be careful to the rollers or something, or if you use the same ones but you don't put.
Okay, so now I got my intake in place. Be careful, those gaskets can slide, and you need to double check, make sure they're in the right position when you put this on, because you have to go around the cam sensor over there, and sometimes you push out of place. So I'm dropping my bolts in here. I'm gonna tighten them down with my hand. And then I got my torque wrench, and it calls for 89 pounds of stone cold pressure. Order sequence I have on this piece of paper right there. So back to this. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these down so we don't waste all this time. Now go through and do what the paper says on the order of sequence. And whenever you hear the click on the order sequence, that's as tight as it goes. Alright, so I got the intake on there at 89 pounds, which is says 10 nm. So that would be pounds per inch, not foot. But either way, got it done. It's on there, just to let you know, pounds per inch, not foot. Now all it is putting everything that in the beginning of the video back together in the same order that you took it off. Alright, I'm gonna do all that stuff, and when I'm done, We're gonna fill her up with fluids and check to see if she's gonna overheat again. Cool. Alright, so got most of it all put back together. Still got to put back the water, the coolant reservoir, the alternator, and some of these miscellaneous plugs. Now, when I took this apart with these older Fords, the little pieces that hook on, fuel injectors, all of the clips and stuff are brittle. They're hot, they crack, they break. So it's not unordinary for you to have to come up with some kind of creative way to get it running again. Worst case scenario, go to pull apart, go to the junkyard and get you that wire and cable and just rewire it up. And basically right here on these guys, you saw that I had a box with them numbered. I picked them up left and right, and I set them down in there as I picked them up. So I know that each one of these guys went to where they were supposed to go. Same with the back. And I torqued them down to 89 feet per inch. Foot, inch, 89. It says to do one pass with the 89 and then go up. But the difference in when you're torquing it from those two numbers, like you're not even tightening down any more than it already was. So just do the 89 foot per inch click and just do a tiny little snug right after that. I mean, not even anything major, just a little tick. And that'll be the same as if you did the second sequence of what it says to do. But then again, you can Google and do what you want to do. But I'm about to have this car back up and running, and there was a couple spark plug wires that have big old gashes in them. I electrocutted them up. Hopefully, they will still run good like it was before. I don't know if I did it or what, but there was also this clip right here had broke in half, but the prongs still were able to sit inside the plug, so I just electrical taped it up in a circle, and hopefully that will work too. We'll find out the final outcome when I get everything hooked back. As you can see, got everything back together. She's running. I'm happy because I don't have any problems at the current moment, except for the fact that I just dropped something down there. I don't know what it was. We get in here and rev up the engine. Now, this Ford Taurus is ready. I gotta put some gas in it. The only thing with this one was I had to also do some brakes and rotors, but my belt's slipping because it's been raining. Oh, but she's driving. She's not overheating. Before, on a cold start, it would be throwing out coolant already. It's not doing that. So if you got the high pressure, chances are it's a blown head gasket. This is Adam, Atlanta Fan and Motor Repair. More tutorials to come.